Well, Rick, it's going to be tough for him to have too much good luck. We just learned that Tom Campbell has gone down with all his television ads.
That's not a strategy.
That's tough in the final week of a campaign, but a reflection he just doesn't have the money. Now, of course, our post-politics segment with Chris Cillizza. Let's start right with last night. What the hell happened in Alabama?
Man,
Archer Davis down.
This is why I like politics, because it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
I think what we were talking about was, well, is Artur Davis, how much is he going to win by? Is it going to be close? And not only does he lose, but I heard Rick say he got walloped.
Yeah,
it's like a 25-point defeat. Look, I think it was a combination of a couple things. One, he ran as a general election candidate in a primary, largely to preserve his ability to get elected in the general election. He forgot the critical thing that if you don't become your party's nominee, it greatly reduces your ability to win the general election. I also think he resisted a very tried and true strategy, which is there are unelected black officials in that state that control lots and lots of the African-American vote. Artur Davis not only didn't court those folks, he actively ran against them, believing that he needed to break that idea that he was beholden to them. He lost to Ron Sparks, a white agriculture commissioner who nobody really knew that much about, in some of these heavily black counties, 70-30, 65-35. Stunning result.
Let's start another Alabama race. Some surprise here. Parker Griffith. Can we just say as an axiom, don't switch parties?
Yeah,
it's not going to work.
If
It worked for Phil Graham. I mean, it has worked.
And John makes a good point. I actually think that the only model that can be defended in this kind of environment is the Phil Graham model, which is you're a Democrat, you switch parties, but you resign your office and you run in a special election. Basically saying to voters, it's up to you. My personal beliefs have moved me off of this party, but you make the choice. Look, Arlen Specter, Parker Griffith, if anybody was thinking about switching parties, and interestingly, House Republicans, I think a little part of their unstated, but a part of their strategy is if they got close in November, 4 or 5 seats, that they had a small group of people, the Bobby Brights in Alabama's world, maybe the Walt Minnecks and Idaho's of the world, that they would go to and say, look, we can really make it sweet for you. I think that becomes more difficult now because they look at the scattered bodies along the road.
I guess the only question is whether the switches to independent are going to be any different. If a Charlie Crist, for instance, or Lincoln Chafee in Rhode Island have any more luck.
Tim Cahill, the state treasurer in Massachusetts, running for governor, switched from D to I. Crist, I think, is going to be our test case. It's Florida, so it's important in and of itself. He's well known.
And the arrest of the former party chairman is going to help him out down there.
Golly. I mean, I think we all knew that Jim Greer, might have been that job might have been a little bit of a reach for him when Charlie Crist put him into it. I don't think, I'll speak for myself, I certainly didn't think he would wind up arrested.
The guy's behind bars right now.
Mugshot.
That runs well in a campaign ad. We mentioned earlier in the show this ad that's been running against Blanche Lincoln, League of Conservation Voters. Take a look at some of what is being said about her on the airways.
Big Oil has another gusher, but this time it's tens of millions in campaign cash. Over the last 2 years, Blanche Lincoln has taken more oil and gas money than any other U.S. senator, over $500,000 since elected. Maybe she got that money because she helped Bush and Cheney give oil companies $14 billion in tax breaks, or because she voted to allow risky offshore drilling for BP and others. It's time to send Big Oil a message. On Tuesday, send Blanche Lincoln packing.
Yeah, sending Big Oil a message through Blanche Lincoln has got to be a devastating message this close to a primary.
You have all the kind of hot button images there. You have the rig on fire. You have the potentially even more difficult image of the smirking George Bush and Dick Cheney, in a Democratic primary. I mean, you've really got the kind of every touchstone, emotional touchstone for Democratic primary voters. And it is in keeping with the argument being made by her opponents, which is she's just taken too much money from these special interests, and as a result, she works for them, not you.
So what's the bottom line? That race is next week. What happens to her?
My operating assumption is that she comes up a little bit short. She got 45.5% of the vote on May 18th. Bill Halter, Lieutenant Governor, got 43.5%. D.C. Morrison, my favorite Dickensian nickname candidate.
I mean, it's a bad time to be running D.C.
Got 13%. The theory in this is that if you weren't for Blanche Lincoln on May 18th as an Arkansas Democratic voter, why are you for her on June 8th? It seems to me that Halter wins enough of the D.C. Morrison voters, who heck knows who they are, but wins enough of the D.C. Morrison voters to
who was actually running from her right, but
running from her ideological right. The question is, was it an ideological primary vote, or
it was against her?
And I think it was against her. That's my belief.
Throw some oil on top.
And by the way, it would be the third sitting incumbent to lose. Bob Bennett, Arlen Specter, most since 1980.
Pretty incredible. Chris Cillizza, it's Post Politics, the Fix blog, WashingtonPost.com. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.
And that's it for Top Line.
All right, Twitter.com/the Note. Keep the conversation going. So